All right, Jake, I'm going to respond to this real quickly just because you really didn't cover a whole lot of bases on evolution, and I really didn't understand what you were saying about love since you were replying to that other guy. But I was hoping maybe we could open up a dialogue between us and just discuss things that you think are true, things that I think are true, and let me challenge you. You know I'm smart. You know I pretty much know what I'm talking about. But I look at it as a challenge to I look at it as a challenge to penetrate what you're saying or to talk about, to understand what you're saying and just tell you what my experience and my thoughts are. You can have your own conclusion, whatever you want. So the first thing, just about evolution in general, things do change over time. Nobody's arguing that they don't. Uh, the question as it pertains to the larger question of theism, or is there a God or a super intelligence out there, is the question of natural selection, randomness versus intent versus design. And the problem that uh, naturalists have, which is basically what all atheists are, naturalists to a certain extent or another, uh, is that you have to have a specific. You have biological systems that we see now that are have a very specified complexity. You have to have a very specific arrangement of atoms, of not atoms, of molecules um, in DNA and in proteins for biological systems to work. And so, common descent, which is what you were talking about, whether we came from apes or an ape-like precursor, uh, does not rule out design, or which has theological implications, theistic implications. It confirms theism more so than natural selection does, which doesn't need a designer. Um, and so common descent could also be common design. You could have they call it front-loading evolution. Um, the earliest microbes that were on the earth that came on the earth, if they were from an intelligent agent, could have been um, pre-programmed to be able to adapt as life unfolded, as time unfolded rather, adapt to certain circumstances, certain situations, and eventually, with the right triggers, become fish, become birds, become reptiles, become amphibians, become mammals. Um, so and personally, as a theist, I think that to me would make God even more incredible than as some magician that just made things appear out of nothing. So just so you understand, common descent does not necessarily mean prove there's no design. Um, it just means that all the life that we experience now came from um, certain uh, common precursors. There's some evidence I've heard from scientists that life may have originated in several pockets on Earth. So it could be that Earth is just uniquely situated and uniquely composed to produce life, um, and and so anyway, that was the whole point of that. On love, what you were saying about love, and I think that comes from the argument that atheists have no reason to love, or no reason. There's no reason to be charitable or anything else because God is love, or God commands it, or something like that. I don't know exactly what the argument. It sounds like whoever was making it wasn't real deep philosophically, but love is a human emotion, and you don't have to believe in God to experience human emotions. I don't see how that's an argument for anything, uh, the, as far as theism is concerned. Uh, I think forgiveness and some of the commands in the Bible, love your enemies and things like that, um, don't have anything to do with your species. I mean, loving your enemies helps your line. It's not about, nobody thinks about doing love because they're doing it for the advancement of their species. All of us are selfish, for the most part, or not selfish, but self-interested in self-interest. self-interested. We want to do what's in our own self-interest. We don't want to do anything that's harmful to ourselves necessarily, unless there's something wrong with us. Then there's something wrong with you. So none of us think of the species, though. We think of survival against competitors in our species, if anything else, or competitors from other species. I mean, that's the way life pretty much works on its own, absent human moral code, human ethics. And I think that's where, with altruism, why should you give your life? And that's kind of defies Darwinism, defies survival of your own genetic line. If you would give your life for another, if you would risk your life for another. Uh, and people that do that aren't thinking of their species necessarily. Um, they do that sort of thing out of love. Anyway, just a couple things for you to think of.